Today's Breaking Views is all about Greece. Joining me to discuss what the future holds for Greece and the Eurozone is Reuters Breaking Views European editor Pierre Biancon. Pierre, good to see you. Now, you argue in your piece today that the vote yesterday buys Europe a little more breathing space. It's not much at all, as we can see from the market reaction already this morning.
Well, it buys Greece breathing space, but the Eurozone is far from being out of the funk, definitely. What the market's reaction shows is that what we already knew a little bit is that it's not all about Greece any longer. It's about Spain, of course, it's about Italy, it might be about France at some point, but Greece was just a sticking point and something that had to be overcome, and they've done that. It's relief for Greece because we can see probably going to see the Troika and the rest of the Eurozone making some concessions to tell the Greek people, okay, you've made the right choice and we understand, and we're not the bad guys you thought we were. Including Germany might be amenable to some concessions. The real question is what they do next, and of course the European summit at the end of the month will see to that whether they're able to build a long-term solution to the crisis, or they go from crisis to crisis as we've seen so far.
Now, the vote appears to have bought Greece relief in the sense that the funding from the EU will continue. But it's hard to find any other source of relief. The economy is still in deep recession. The hardship is plain for all to see. There's not much other.
No, you're right. There's going to be the huge, big question mark over the Greek economy in the month to come. What about austerity? Can they keep pushing reforms that worsen actually the economy and make it even more difficult for them to reach their targets? So what you're going to see is probably they're going to, of course, pay out the money they were scheduled to pay out, notably for the recapitalization of the Greek banking system. There's still something like more than 30 billion left to be paid out. They're going to ask for the government to come back on the path to reforms. Because remember, the last month has been wasted, has added an extra crisis to the fundamental crisis, because there has been no government in Greece for the last month or so. So they have to come back to the reform path and to give them some wiggle room and to allow them to show that that policy brings results. So far, the Greek economy is going into a nightmare, and the Eurozone has to react and has to tell them, okay, we're more flexible than you thought.
Well, so far it would appear that that policy of that reform policy hasn't brought the results that they thought it would. And actually, the vote, you could argue, the vote was more than 50% was anti-bailout.
Yeah, absolutely, and they have to take that into account as well. It's not just the government that barely made it, the pro-reform parties. They have to address the situation where, the big ultra-left party has 27% of the vote, is going to be forced to be reckoned with. And so they have to, I agree, they have to do something about that. I don't really agree that the reform hasn't brought any results. I mean, the finance of the country is much better than it was a year ago. They are almost nearing the primary deficit level, the primary balance level that they would need to really, but the question is austerity. Can they keep firing people by thousands and so on? That's a tough question for Germany and France.
So how does Germany answer that question? I mean, we've had today German officials saying that they are prepared to sit down and talk with Greece about extending the terms or certainly the time frame to meet its targets. But what must Germany do now?
Well, there's a good side to the fact that pretty much everyone had discounted Greece. I mean, the big Eurozone powers were ready to let Greece go if they had to, and so the good side of it is that now it's not going to take a lot of principled concessions on the part of Germany or France to tell the Greek, okay, we understand the pain, and we're ready to give you more years to reach those infamous targets.
But it's a weak coalition. It may be a very weak coalition. The will to hold that together seems to be very fragile. We could be here having this same conversation in a month or two time. Yet
another reason for the Eurozone to be subtle about the pressure or the negotiations they're going to have with Greece. They have to realize, yes, the pro-reform or the pro-bailout parties made it, but barely so, and it's going to be a very fragile situation for the next 4 or 5 years.
And already Spanish yields well back above 7%, so the market is giving its clear reaction to that.
That's what the real issue is. What do they do fundamentally to address the situation, and not just the bailout of Greece and then bailout of Spanish banks? There's a fundamental flaw in the Eurozone. Until they address it, I mean, they'll go from crisis to crisis.
Very quickly, it seems like it must be a mix of transfers, printing money, or some sort of debt forgiveness, or a mix of all three. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart.
At the very least, transfers that are backed by sovereignty concessions on the part of big powers, and the fact that they're going to have some form of banking union and some form of fiscal union. That's unavoidable.
Okay, Pierre, thank you very much. That's all for now. My thanks there to Pierre Briançon. For more agenda-setting financial insight, watch our US Breaking Views show every day at 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 London. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.